Well, howdy. I normally don't say howdy, but there it is. So, I'm going to introduce myself in the show. This is Critical Weight Theory. Welcome back if you've by some miracle returned. And it's a show where we dive into different topics like sometimes politics, sometimes movies and TV, and philosophy, and this, that, and the other. And this time we're going to look into effective communication, debate tactics, and critical thinking. So we're going to discuss how to counter ad hominem attacks in a debate or discussion forum without resorting to name calling yourself. So how exciting, huh? Yeah. I'm somebody who doesn't really do a whole lot of online debating anymore, but I used to do that a lot back when I was in college. I'd go on to these online, debate forums, and there were times where, I was maybe a formidable presence, other times where I was, disappointing to myself, and there were times where, yes, I did insult others. I mean, that's one of the points I'm going to be making here is that anybody can falter, anybody can engage in personal attacks and become an outright bully. So it's something you might want to, keep an eye on. You might want to make sure that you're not, falling for that yourself. Sometimes you can even be trapped into that sort of behavior. If the person you're debating is, savvy enough and they're, like playing sort of a chess game with you. It's something to be on the lookout for. You don't really want to come off or across as a bully. That shouldn't really be the point of any of this kind of stuff. But just so you know, ad hominem attacks target the person rather than addressing the argument, and they can derail meaningful discussions. And of course, in this day and age, not everyone's in it for a meaningful discussion anyway. But let's pretend that's the chief aim here. And there are ways to handle these attacks gracefully and effectively. So first, it's good to understand ad hominem attacks. So, ad hominem is a logical fallacy where the focus is shifted from the argument to the person making it. So, for example, you're just an ignorant sheep who blindly follows the mainstream media. You don't have an independent thought in your head. Now, I pick that type of argument because honestly, that sounds like some shit I could say. All right? So I'm going to be a little bit self-critical here. That's me addressing, some of my own faults. But it's a good idea to recognize when you're being attacked personally rather than your argument being addressed. And, of course, consider whether or not you're engaging in that kind of behavior. So, another good idea is to stay calm and composed to the extent possible. Sometimes it's more tricky than other times. Maybe sometimes it really is not even possible. But when faced with a personal attack, maintaining your composure is usually pretty crucial. Responding with anger or personal attacks yourself can escalate, escalate the situation and make you come across worse. So that's one of the reasons people start to lob personal attack grenades at each other to begin with. It's not just a bullying tactic, but it's also a way to, you know, send a person scrambling. Maybe to continue with the word scrambling a little bit. Maybe it'll scramble their circuits up, get them discombobulated, and I think that's the right word. Isn't discombobulated a word that could work? Let's see. What does that mean? Confused and disconcerted. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. So you don't want to be thrown off, and you don't want to be accused of maliciously throwing another person off their game just to win some cheap points. Although that's of course what a lot of political debate is these days. I'm sure that's always been the case to some degree, but I think it's often pretty worse in some circles, you know. So, keeping her cool helps you maintain the moral high ground and really, just as important, the intellectual and factual high ground. So, those three things often go hand in hand. In fact, I think they're pretty much indispensable to each other to a large degree. So, an example would be it seems like you're attacking me personally rather than addressing my argument. Let's focus on the issue at hand. That's like a straightforward way to just swat their effort down, like a cat swatting at a ball of yarn or whatever. It's a good idea to address the fallacy. Politely point out that the attack is an ad hominem and explain that attacking the person rather than the argument is not a valid form of debate, you dummy. So, for example, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the actual issue. How do you respond to the evidence I presented? And presumably, you're going to present evidence in your argument. Obviously, I don't know the specifics of, this is all a hypothetical thing here, so I don't know what exactly the substance of your position would be. So you're kind of on your own as far as that goes, but generally speaking, you might have a case to plead. So you'll want to refocus on the argument, again, to the extent it's even possible, redirect the conversation back to the main topic, reiterate your original point, and ask for a response to it. So, let's get back to discussing the evidence. What do you think about the data I shared? Use evidence and logic, instead of poisonous attack that's intended to divert, distract, and simply insult another person. I mean, we all do that. We all do that, again, pretty much. Unless we're absolute gentlemen and gentle ladies out there. But I think just about everybody has insulted somebody else in this type of setting. And, you'll want to strengthen your position by providing clear evidence and logical reasoning. Evidence lends credibility to your argument and helps demonstrate that your assertions are based on factual information, research, or expert opinion. This support makes your argument more compelling and helps refute counter-arguments effectively. So, for example, you might say, here's the data that supports my point. What's your response to this information? And if they don't have anything to say, well, that's how you've kind of sort of won. Although you got to be careful there too, because just because somebody can't, think of something in the spur of the moment, that doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong. That's one of the aspects of debate that make it seem futile, because somebody can come across as being wrong or incorrect, but it doesn't necessarily mean they are. The facts might still be on their side, but they're just not adequately presenting their case. So, in a way, debates end up sort of just being like a game or something a lot of the time. So, there's something about ethical responsibility and integrity that can help boost a debate, though. So if you're going to ever have a debate/discussion, using evidence demonstrates academic integrity and ethical responsibility. So even if you're not in a classroom setting, approaching things as if you are academic will lend you some credibility to yourself and possibly to your audience, possibly to the person you're debating. Maybe they'll even concede points here and there. That does happen sometimes. And it shows that you've conducted thorough research and are presenting information accurately and honestly. This approach shows confidence in your argument and avoids the need for personal attacks. So, I'm going to wrap things up here. Countering ad hominem attacks involves staying calm, addressing the fallacy, refocusing on the argument, and using evidence and logic. by following those strategies, you can maintain a respectful and effective debate, even when faced with personal attacks. And believe me, there will be some of those if you've done this, at all. So thanks for listening to Critical Weight Theory. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe. I believe it's on YouTube that you can subscribe, maybe some other places. Leave a review, share, do all that kind of stuff. And, we're going to have more episodes coming up. And that's about it. That's about all I have to say. Now, yeah, have a good one.